Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're cracking open a seriously fascinating strategic intelligence dossier, the strategic footprint of Alberto Daniel Hill. We're going to be looking at the massive digital reach and the highly specific, battle-tested analytical methodologies of this cybersecurity expert. It's honestly a gripping look into how one individual took personal adversity and flipped it into a powerful, decentralized intelligence network. Let's kick things off with the sheer scale of his operation. Because when we talk about Alberto Daniel Hill, we aren't just talking about your everyday casual social media presence. He commands a direct, fiercely engaged reach of over 1.2 million people. And these aren't just random scrollers, right? These are individuals who are deeply embedded within the global cybersecurity and digital rights communities. By effectively operating as his own independent, fully integrated intelligence agency, his decentralized media strategy has generated over 5 million total impressions. That incredible volume puts him easily in the top 1% of global independent researchers for visibility. He isn't just participating in the conversation out there, he's absolutely driving it. So here's our roadmap for today. 1. Quantifying a global reach. 2. The Uruguayan influence disparity. 3. Validating threats in real time. And 4. The asymmetric defense playbook. All right, let's dive into Section 1, Quantifying a Global Reach. We're going to look at the demographics of this decentralized impact. Like I said, this is not a casual audience. Over half, 52.7% to be exact, fall right into that 25 to 44 core professional bracket. We're talking active practitioners, researchers, and the folks actually making decisions, concentrated heavily in places like the US, Uruguay, Mexico, India, and Nigeria. He's really built this ecosystem of professionals who rely heavily on his technical insights. Moving on to Section 2, the Uruguayan influence disparity, global resonance versus local footprint. You know, there is a staggering disparity in reach when you compare Hill to his regional peers. You've got local experts, folks like Gerardo Canedo and Sebastian Passero, scoring media impact readings of 20 or 15. They do really important work, but their engagements are hyper-localized to domestic dev communities. Hill, on the other hand, scores a perfect 100. He has this million-listener amplification that simply doesn't exist anywhere else in his local market. And this massive gap? It's exactly what lets Hill act as this powerful lone voice against Latin American opacity. He uses a strategy he actually calls radical transparency. It's like a wrecking ball for what he terms institutional muteness, that habit institutions have of just downplaying or outright ignoring their digital failures. By leveraging his massive global audience, he just bypasses that local censorship entirely. Section 3, Validating Threats in Real Time. Let's unpack his zero-error methodology. So instead of sitting around waiting for some sanitized official press release, Hill bypasses official opacity completely by interfacing directly with underground threat syndicates. He's literally communicating with actors, like this one going by the name Pampa, to validate raw intel exactly as it's happening, like with the Argentina API leaks. He is going straight to the primary source. The real game changer here is the approach. Traditional state institutions often lean on what Hill calls flawed observational forensics. I mean, he cites extreme examples from his own past, where institutions literally printed out firewall logs and pointed to dropped connections as absolute proof of a hack. Think about that. Hill's methodology completely rejects that. He cross-references primary source data directly from the underground. He verifies it from the inside out. Which brings us to Section 4, the asymmetric defense playbook, reclaiming truth. Look, we all know standard vulnerability disclosure can sometimes, unfortunately, lead to criminalization, especially in regions where authorities might have low technical literacy. Because of that harsh reality, Hill engineered this 4-step asymmetric defense playbook. It's a framework specifically designed to protect researchers from just being swallowed up and silenced by state or corporate machinery. Let's break down exactly how this defense is built. Step 1 is absolutely crucial: zero contact disclosure. This means you mandate the use of anonymous intermediaries so you can't be personally targeted. But at the exact same time, you have to build a decentralized reputation firewall. The whole goal here is to archive and lock in the technical truth on immutable platforms immediately, way before a state or corporate narrative can spin the story and try to brand you a criminal. Okay, but what if local institutions just play dumb? They deploy their protocol of silence and refuse to acknowledge a massive breach. That is when you initiate Step 2, the proxy pivot. This is brilliant because it uses their own compliance against them. By finding proxy EU residents whose data was compromised, you can leverage international laws, specifically triggering GDPR Article 33 violations. You're essentially forcing corporate accountability across international borders when local laws deliberately fail you.
Then we have the third maneuver, and it's a fascinating legal strategy called the spoliation ultimatum. Hill actually learned this the hard way. When his devices were seized, he lost his 2FA seeds, which basically resulted in the destruction of over $100,000 in digital assets. He realized pretty quickly that arguing technical nuances with a technically illiterate court is a losing battle. Instead, you hold the entities civilly liable for the destruction of records. You make forensic contamination a very costly civil liability. And lastly, step 4. Hill really stresses that the community has to formalize these rapid response intelligence ecosystems. He actually created the CYBERMIDNIGHT CLUB to be exactly this, an asymmetric intelligence agency. It provides real-time forensic forecasting, emotional support, and immediate legal defense for framed researchers. It ensures that nobody has to face that institutional machine alone.
Ultimately, this whole playbook serves one massive, overarching goal: enforcing safe harbors under the core belief that hacking is not a crime. It is about making sure that digital curiosity is legally protected, so that young professionals, like the 19-year-old who was doxxed during the Ansel Tazwidi collapse, don't end up sitting in a maximum security prison because of fabricated evidence and media complicity. So, as we wrap up this explainer on Alberto Daniel Hill's strategic footprint and his incredibly battle-tested methodologies, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. When the institutional machinery eventually turns its gaze on your research, or maybe your organization, are you actually prepared to deploy your own asymmetric defense? Is your decentralized firewall ready to go, or are you just kind of hoping this system will protect you? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer today. I really hope it shifted how you think about vulnerability and defense.